have felt discouraged by many problems which come into our lives. But we must never forget that everything Jesus allows in our life happens for a reason. The best example for this is the story of Joseph. Joseph was one of Jacob's 12 sons. He was Jacob's favorite son, but because of this, Joseph's brothers hated him a lot. One day, while taking care of their father's flocks, they thought of killing him. But Reuben, Jacob's eldest son, told them that they shouldn't kill him but throw him into a well nearby. When Joseph went to join his brothers a while later, they caught hold of him, beat him up and threw him into the well. After a while, they decided to sell him to some Ishmaelites who were going on their way. After reaching home, they lied to Jacob, saying that Joseph was killed by a wild animal. The Ishmaelites took Joseph to Egypt. There he worked as a slave in Potiphar's house. Just when Joseph was becoming favored for working hard, he was falsely accused and thrown into prison. In prison, Joseph met the Egyptian king's cupbearer and the king's baker. They were worried as they both had two different dreams the previous night but couldn't understand the meaning of those dreams. God had given Joseph the ability to interpret dreams. So he interpreted their dreams and said that the cupbearer would be released from the prison in 3 days, whereas the baker would be killed. The interpretations came true. So Joseph asked the cupbearer to tell the king about him. But after getting released, the cupbearer forgot about him. Many years later, the king of Egypt had two similar strange dreams. He woke up in the middle of the night in fear. He asked many of his ministers and wise men to interpret his dreams, but they couldn't. Just then, the cupbearer remembered Joseph and told the king about him. So the king summoned Joseph and asked him for the interpretation. Joseph interpreted the dreams. He told the king that for 7 years there would be a good yield of food in Egypt, but for the next 7 years a bad famine would take place. The king had to appoint a person in charge of storing food properly for the next 7 years. After hearing the explanation, the king took off his ring, gave it to Joseph and made him his minister. He also put him in charge of storing food and distributing it accordingly. After all the things God made Joseph go through, Joseph was made the minister of Egypt. He turned out to be the person because of whom the people around him, including his brothers, were saved from getting starved due to the famine. Joseph's story shows us that no matter whatever situations we go through, we must remember that God does it for our own good. After tribulation, surely there will be a reward for us.